I actually thought about giving up basketball this summer.
Really?
Yeah.
In the Bob Myers era, the Golden State Warriors have been the most dominant team in the entire league, with 4 championships amassed and 3 future Hall of Famers being minted in the process. Robert Michael Myers has left a legacy at Golden State that may never be outdone. Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Swish Culture. In today's video, I'll be exploring Myers' legacy through all the players drafted and developed by Golden State under his leadership as general manager. While it echoes details surrounding his tenure in Golden State, this will not be a comprehensive effort in the coverage of his accomplishments. Any mention of such will simply be a byproduct of the analysis of the players, their individual accomplishments, and where they are today across the spectrum of professional basketball, or whatever it is they may be doing today, even if they're doing it from the sidelines after careers shorter than Steve Kerr's remaining tenure as the Warriors head coach. No worries, even if they pull him out early, before the end of the fourth, I can promise you, I won't be losing any sleep over it. I'll take it one step further as well, considering it's not really that much of a leap, and include any players Myers had an influence in drafting. During Myers' total tenure as an assistant GM and GM for Golden State, he drafted a total of 23 players, and signed quite a few more as free agents. To keep things more concise, I'll focus on the players drafted, which gives you more of an idea of player development at the franchise, as well as scouting, because what's important here is to determine why these players were selected, why they were moved, and how things are looking for them as of today. So while the Warriors built a dynasty under Myers with 4 chips, let's see what really went down at Golden State over the course of the last 12 years. Before that, however, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. So without further delay, let's get to it. Of the 23 players drafted by the Warriors since 2011, which doesn't include the players drafted in 2023, only a total of 6 of these players still remain on the Warriors roster. Half of those players were drafted between 2021 and 2022. They are Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and Guy Santos. 2 of the remaining 3 are part of the Warriors championship core in Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. The third is Kevon Looney, who was drafted at the end of the year that the Warriors won their first recent title. That means Bob Myers had a success rate of 26%, hitting on 6 out of 23. The jury is still out on Guy Santos, however, as he hasn't been given an opportunity just yet. This leaves 17 players that the Warriors drafted over the years that didn't pan out. So, what happened to them and where are they now? Back in 2011, the year the Warriors drafted Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson. I'm going to take Klay.
Most people forget that while future All-Star Isaiah Thomas was still on the board, the Warriors picked up 4-year college player Charles Jenkins with their 44th pick. Jenkins was a 6'3" combo guard who was supposed to play behind Steph Curry, but ended up being traded after a year following losing that backup spot to Jarrett Jack. The Warriors, in an effort to stay below the luxury tax, sent Jenkins to the 76ers for cash and a top 55 protected second-round pick. Yeah. The Warriors are still waiting on that pick to convey. After a year in Philly and with consideration of some advice from a teammate, Charles Jenkins had had enough of riding the bench and joined the EuroLeague, signing up to play for Crvena Zvezda in Serbia, a choice he made for financial reasons. He then went on to play in and won a couple of championships in the Adriatic League, as well as a Finals MVP in 2017. While he played for FMP Meridian as recently as June of 2023, as of this season, the 34-year-old has not been playing with the team. He was also ranked as Steph Curry's 80th best teammate by SB Nation's Brady Klopfer. The following year, in 2012, the Warriors were able to draft 4 players. Starting with their very own first-round pick, they were able to draft Harrison Barnes at 7th overall. The remaining 3 picks came after being conveyed from San Antonio, which was used to draft Festus Ezeli at 30th, Brooklyn, which was used to draft Draymond Green at 35th, and Atlanta, used to draft Onion Kuzmic, the 52nd pick. Barnes being a lottery pick at 7th didn't quite pan out for Golden State. After helping the Warriors to a championship in 2015, he was cited as a major component in the loss of the 2016 NBA Finals. The Warriors subsequently traded him to the Sacramento Kings, where this up-and-coming team is likely to make their second playoff in as many years. Barnes, at only 31, still has some good years left and currently slots in as a third or fourth option for Sacramento. The 30th pick, Festus Ezeli, was selected to balance out the Harrison Barnes pick with some size in the front court. After a redshirt his freshman year and 4 full seasons in the NCAA, development he needed considering he'd only started playing basketball at 15, the Warriors wanted to use him as a backup for Andrew Bogut. As luck would have it, he ended up starting a lot of games as a rookie in place of Bogut, who faced some injuries at the time. While he didn't play a lot of minutes, he was improving year over year, and in his third year off the bench, was averaging 7 points and 6 rebounds in 17 minutes, as well as helping the Warriors win the championship in 2015. Due to his injury history, however, the Warriors didn't want to take the risk in re-signing him, so the Blazers picked him up. Unfortunately for Ezeli, he never played a single game for the Blazers, as he had to have season-ending surgery and was waived at the end of the season. After taking 4 years off from basketball to give his body plenty of time to heal, Festus Ezeli returned to the NBA and was assigned a spot in the G League. But some things just aren't meant to be. Before he was able to suit up for a single game, Ezeli faced yet another injury, ending his career and any further aspiration he had to become a basketball player. Ranked as Curry's 51st best teammate, today you will find Ezeli working the sidelines as a reporter. For the final pick of 2012, the Warriors drafted Onion Kuzmic, a 7-foot Serbian that played a total of 37 games with Golden State, averaging, he was tall. Kuzmic played 2 seasons with Golden State, snagged 2 championships in 2015. Yes, you heard that right. 2 championships. One with Santa Cruz in the D-League and one with Golden State. He then took off for Greece shortly thereafter. The 33-year-old was recently teamed up with Charles Jenkins to play for FMP Meridian, and while Jenkins doesn't seem to be on the latest roster, Kuzmic just renewed his contract through 2025. Now, around the years that the Golden State Warriors were dominating the league, they obviously didn't get any high lottery picks, so selecting good players at this level is quite difficult. Between 2015 and 2020, the highest draft pick the Warriors selected was 28th, so keep that in mind when hearing how these players panned out. Or didn't, rather. The Warriors haven't been having much luck getting a young center. Ezeli was on hiatus, his second-year Looney was undersized, and both Bogut and Paschall were getting close to retirement. Despite a torn right pectoral injury during a workout with the Magic, Damian Jones still ended up going in the first round, being selected by the Warriors with the 30th overall pick in 2016. He was able to play in his rookie year, but only 10 games, playing mostly in the G League. His second year in the league, the Warriors put Jones into the starting lineup, and after just 15 games, tore his left pectoral muscle, requiring surgery which sidelined him for the season. After a full rehab, the Warriors traded Jones to the Atlanta Hawks. He bounced around the league between the Hawks, Suns, Lakers, Jazz, and is currently playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he's coming off the bench behind Jarrett Allen, averaging 1 appearance every 3 games. This next player is the only one in Golden State Warriors history to ever three-peat. After winning a championship with Golden State in 2017 and 2018, Patrick McCaw was sent to the Toronto Raptors, where he won a 3rd consecutive championship against his former team. McCaw is a 6'7" wing that was drafted 38th overall by the Bucks and traded to the Warriors for cash on draft night. The expectation was that Harrison Barnes would now be re-signed and that this was step 1. The team was in talks with Kevin Durant, and a backup role should be sufficient, although Jerry West was a huge proponent of Patrick McCaw, saying the league will regret letting him fall that far. His first year with the Warriors showed a lot of promise, as he would either come off the bench or serve as an injury replacement for both Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. In his second year, his performance regressed, with his numbers dropping across the board. His 3-point percentage, free throw shooting, and field goal percentage all fell in that second year. The Warriors didn't re-sign McCaw for the 3rd year, and after 6 months on the market, the Cavaliers picked him up on a head-scratching 2-year, $6 million contract. They of course had immediate buyer's remorse and waived him after just 3 games. Lucky for them, the deal wasn't guaranteed. The Raptors not only picked him up right after the Cavs dropped him, but they re-signed him after they won the championship. Arthroscopic surgery weakened his case for a roster spot, and he was eventually waived by the Raptors in 2021. He then went to the Delaware Blue Coats, which is a G League affiliate of the 76ers, where he won yet another championship. Maybe, just maybe, Someone should hire this guy just to occupy a roster spot because with him, his team has greater than a 50% chance of winning a championship. After that, he tried to sign with a team in Europe, but unfortunately, that didn't work out. So he ended up re-signing with the Delaware Bluecoats this season, where he's averaging, Let's move on. Who could forget Jordan Bell? The Warriors were so desperate to get some size and set their sights on the 6'7" forward, a redshirt junior coming out of Oregon back in 2017. He played some great minutes for the Warriors his rookie year as a lob threat, but unfortunately, while Bell was a phenomenal athlete, he just didn't have the necessary skills at his size. The Warriors didn't place much value on him, and despite extending an offer to keep him on, the Timberwolves gave him a better one. He bounced around a bit between the Timberwolves, Grizzlies, Warriors, Wizards, the G League, even went to China for a year before recently signing a deal with the Indiana Pacers G League affiliate, the Indiana Mad Ants, where the 28-year-old is hoping to get another shot at the league via a 10-day contract. The following year, the Dubs had it with big men and decided they'd take a chance on a player touted as a 6'6" guard. Unfortunately, Jacob Evans III never quite lived up to that, as he was never able to put it together. After 2 seasons with the Warriors, Evans was traded to the Timberwolves, then bounced around in the G League before playing in the Israeli League. He last played for the Santa Cruz Warriors in 2022, but if you want to find him these days, be sure to check out White Men Can't Jump as Kamal Allen, TBT, aka the Throwback Tournament, as 26-year-old Jacob Evans III tries to win $1 million in a 5-on-5 basketball tournament. Now, Eric Paschall was an interesting pick. As a 6'6" forward, he was selected 41st overall behind Jordan Poole and the most notorious Alan Smailagic. More on these two later. Paschall was considered a tweener since he didn't really have a three-point shot, but he also couldn't play the 4 or 5 due to his height. The Warriors thought they could get lucky like they did with Draymond Green, but this wasn't the case. What he was, however, at 250 pounds, was a massive human being who could bully his way into the paint and had great hops. Unfortunately, this wasn't what the Warriors needed. They needed guys who could defend and make plays. Paschall was too slow for guards and too small to defend bigs. Despite making the all-rookie second team, he ended up getting shipped to the Utah Jazz for a future second-round pick after 2 years. After 1 year with the Jazz, next to his childhood friend and former teammate Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz didn't re-sign him, and he almost quit basketball before he signed with the Timberwolves on a 2-way contract during the summer of 2022.
Eric, can you kind of just take us through the process of how you landed here in Minnesota and how the pieces fit to make you get to this point?
It was a hell of a journey, I'll say that. I actually thought about giving up basketball this summer.
Really?
Yeah. But
why?
It was just a lot. You know what I'm saying? I feel like mentally I wasn't in the greatest place. I was just tired, and I was like, I might just stop playing basketball. And the free agency process, like that's a toll. Like that's a toll on your mental. Like you see other players get picked up, you're not getting called. You're calling your agent every day. So I was at a point where I was like, I might walk away, I might not.
He was waived at the beginning of the season and hasn't played in the NBA since. He did pick up a contract to play in Puerto Rico para un año, pero it didn't work out as he was released after only a month. He's largely kept away from basketball since then, and it's safe to say his career as a basketball player is over. So in the second round of the 2019 NBA draft, just before selecting Eric Paschall, the Warriors drafted the next Nikola Jokic. Or so they thought. After paying top dollar to move up and secure the pick, 6'10" Alan Smailagic was stashed in the G League, hidden away out of sight as the Warriors sought to protect this investment at all costs. Smiley was the youngest player drafted into the NBA at just 18 years old, as he was scheduled to turn 19 that August. But this goes even further. He was actually drafted into the G League in October of 2018, and was the youngest player to ever be drafted into the G League through a South Bay Lakers pick that was immediately conveyed to the Santa Cruz Warriors. Needless to say, the Warriors worked tirelessly on prepping Smiley for his eventual role with Golden State. to replace Andrew Bogut as the Warriors starting five and elevate the team to championships for years to come, Smiley was a problem. Not only did he not turn out to be anything the Warriors hoped, but he was not nearly ready to play in the NBA. As a matter of fact, it became quite obvious he was never an NBA player and never will be. But Jacob was convinced, and Smiley became a multimillionaire on the prospect that he could anchor the Warriors starting lineup. When the bank account drainage became too excessive, the front office finally gave up and sent the no longer smiling Smiley packing. He was so bad, no other NBA team even considered him on a two-way, although that could have been because of what was about to happen next. Smiley went on to play in Serbia for his hometown team and ended up winning the ABA championship with the Partisans. Looks like Jacob was right after all, or was he? During that championship run for the Partisans, Smiley averaged 5 points and 2 rebounds in 10 minutes per game. So, maybe he wasn't so right. The 23-year-old Smiley is still currently playing for the Partisans. Next up, one of the biggest names in the game, Jordan JP3 Splash Nephew Kid Splash.
Splash something for sure.
Poole. Drafted near the end of the first round, was one of the few Warriors draftees to get thrown into the fire to play and develop the way the league expects. After not being on anyone's radar and the Warriors being chided for picking him in the first round when he could have been available late second or even undrafted.
Maybe the worst pick in the draft so far. This is a guy that you likely could have gotten as an undrafted free agent.
Poole led the Warriors franchise in the poverty year of 2020 without Curry or Clay and through the pandemic. While pandemic Poole didn't become a thing, everything he learned in those harsh years proved to be a treasure trove of wealth as he ascended to semi-stardom with the Golden State Warriors as an integral part of that championship team in 2022. Unfortunately, being chippy with the team's longtime bruiser and permanent member of the core trio proved to be costly in the short term. While Poole envisioned taking over as the team's leader in the post-Curry era, his aspirations fell short as he got knocked out of bounds and out of the locker room by the man who's now in counseling for since having choked out an opposing team member. Jordan Poole has had his fair share of mishaps on the Warriors, something which continued to an extent after he was traded to the Washington Wizards for Chris Paul's expiring contract. This was in effect done to allow the Warriors to pay Draymond Green as well as Klay Thompson. Poole is currently putting up 16.9 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists in 29 minutes per game, which is above average, but less than what he did while at Golden State last year. At only 24 years old, he's still young and finding his way, and while I have no doubt he will find some success, a lot of his future rides on how well he does while in the starting lineup of the Wizards. This might be a make or break year for Poole, and if he doesn't prove he has the capability to lead a team this season, something he wanted to do with the Warriors, teams will be much less likely to give him an opportunity later on. His saving grace will be the fact that this is the Wizards we're talking about here, and finding success hasn't been in this franchise's DNA. Up next is a player that was hyped to be the next best thing, but never really got an opportunity with the Warriors. Justinian Jessup was a very good shooter who went to college at Boise State. He had a college career three-point shooting percentage of 41% and shot 96% from the free throw line his senior year when he was drafted in the second round by the Warriors. Unlike the players on this list, Jessup never actually got past Summer League, so he doesn't quite belong here. But I figured I'd just give a minor update, as I'm sure many of you are interested in what happened. When he was selected to play for the Warriors, he ended up playing for the Illawarra Hawks in the Australian National League, the NBL, that year on their Next Stars program. Since the Warriors pretty much didn't have space on their 15-man roster for a player that required such a contract to buy out his Australian contract, he never got to see the light of day at Golden State. He ended up playing 2 years for Illawarra before going to the New Zealand Breakers. He played there last year and re-signed to play this year, but unfortunately, the 25-year-old was ruled out indefinitely with a pelvic injury. Unlike Jessup, the next player actually did see some minutes on the floor for Golden State. After being ranked as the top player in the 2020 NBA draft class with a 5-star rating, the Warriors' red-headed stepchild reclassified to 2019. Between the end of high school and the end of his first year at college, Nico dropped from the top player to a top 10 player going into the NBA draft. But it didn't stop there. Nico Mannion fell all the way to the second round into the Warriors' lap at 48th. This is an example where the 1 year at college didn't do the player any favors. Nico signed a two-way contract with Golden State and rode the pine behind Brad Wanamaker, who proceeded to stink up the second unit. The Warriors wanted a facilitator, and on that front, Mannion gave the team 2.5 assists per game in 12 minutes. That went along with his 4 points per game and 37% from three. Unfortunately, he stood no chance getting to the basket as he shot 34% from the field overall. After 30 games, it was a wrap, and Nico Mannion ended up signing with Virtus Bologna in Italy. He was still technically under a Warriors contract at the time, so he could have still been called up to play for Golden State. He would not have been able to play for any other team until that contract expired, which it has at this point. Although I don't see any team rushing to get Mannion back into the NBA. Currently, he's playing in the EuroLeague, averaging 6 points and 2 assists on 45% from the field in 14 minutes of playing time. Now, during the Jordan Poole trade to the Washington Wizards, the Warriors also moved a couple of players to sweeten the deal. One such player was Patrick Baldwin Jr., a 6'10" sharpshooter who was ranked at the top of his class, but due to injury and a rough year playing for his dad, ended up falling to the Warriors late in the first round. PBJ didn't get many minutes, but when he did, it was clear that he could become one of the better shooters in the league. The Warriors were looking to possibly find their version of Michael Porter Jr., but if you think Kerr is complaining now about finding minutes for the guys currently on the Warriors roster, imagine how it was when he had PBJ. The simple fact of the matter is that these rookies just don't get the minutes, and Baldwin Jr. was no exception. PBJ is currently averaging 5.6 minutes per game with the Wizards. The kid is barely seeing the floor as this 5.6 minutes is only over a total of 7 games. Incredibly, he's shooting 60% from distance, but only 38% from the field so far. He's clearly not getting a ton of opportunity, and on a team like the Wizards, you'd think they'd try to see what they have. His best performance came in the form of a 17-minute stint versus the 76ers, where he dropped 10 points and grabbed 4 rebounds while shooting 3 of 5 from the field. The other player the Warriors moved is pretty much in the same boat. Ryan Rollins had his best game for the Wizards, scoring 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists in 10 minutes, and was a plus 15. That wasn't his only good game, as he's been a spark off the bench when he does get the minutes, coming in and dropping 7 points in 7 minutes in a different outing. He's only played 8 games this season for the Wizards, but seems he should be playing a bit more, as he's averaging 4 points off the bench in 6 minutes over those 8 games. The jury's still out on the career of these two young men. And finally, the big kahuna, the one former Warrior that you all still hear about all the time, and still wondering if it was a good idea for the Warriors to trade him. The one player you, yes you, clicked on this video to see. So let's not delay this any further. Saddiq Bey is killing it in Atlanta. When the Warriors traded for him, it seemed like the perfect fit. A great 3-and-D prospect from the Pistons. These guys got swindled. Wait, hold up. Despite the Warriors acquiring Bey, he was never actually a part of the team. So technically, that doesn't count. So who's the big kahuna? Big ticket James Wiseman. This W update is pretty interesting. Do you remember how, after being traded to the Pistons, James Wiseman was immediately thrust into a starting role? The Pistons wanted to see what exactly Wiseman could bring to the table. Needless to say, fans were upset because they thought that this was it, and that Wiseman came and took the starting spot of their darling Jalen Duren. What people fail to realize is that this is the most consistency Wiseman has had in his entire career. This kick in the pants is exactly what you need to give a number 2 overall draft pick if you hope to give him the necessary development. Now obviously Wiseman was still a raw prospect. He showed the same things he did at Golden State, which is an offensive package, but still struggled mightily on defense. His tendencies to get lost on the floor have been his Achilles, as well as his speed and instincts/IQ. Overall, his progress has been somewhat slow, but it's definitely getting there. It's getting to the point where you'll have some folks saying that the Pistons should look at building around Wiseman. Now, I provided a mini update on Wiseman a couple of months ago regarding his strides defensively. He's shown improved ability to stay ahead of his defender, moving his feet, and instead of overcommitting or being a traffic cone, he's legitimately textbook defense, which is to make your opponent either give up the ball, take their worst shot, or not get a shot at all. He's starting to put it together a bit, and while it's still very inconsistent, he's made some great plays. He'll get his feet set, stay low, and you see how impactful this is in forcing a player like Trae Young to shoot an air ball. I personally never saw him do that with Golden State, but it goes to show you what happens when you allow a player enough time and reps to develop. Now clearly his offensive game is still definitely there. There are still some holes, but he's slowly filling those. His best performance, however, came against the 76ers, where he had 20 points and 13 rebounds, going up against Joel Embiid, shooting 9 for 12 from the field. He then followed that up with 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists against the Bucks, while shooting 7 of 9, which that assist count is a career high for Wiseman. He's even averaging 71.6% shooting from the field. The main reason Wiseman is getting all these minutes, however, is due to the injury of Jalen Duren, and as he seems to be making the most of it, what seemed like it might be his graveyard at one point might be the point of rejuvenation and breathe new life into Wiseman. He's currently averaging 7 points and 4 rebounds in 14 minutes. The Pistons players don't really find him that much. However, if he keeps up his recent stretch, they're bound to see him as a go-to offense. The Warriors knew he was a long-term project, but gave up when the going got tough. Or expensive. Not even a year removed from Golden State, but I am starting to worry a little bit that, like the other young players for the most part, he just wasn't developed properly, and some other team is going to build their roster around what could have been the Warriors' next generation of young players. So much for the Poole, Moody, Kuminga, PBJ, Wiseman future on the two timelines. I firmly believe Steve Kerr was just not the guy for this particular job. Either way, you win some and you lose some, and there will be plenty of talent available for Golden State when Steph Curry decides to hang it up. At that point, the team will go all in and blow it up to restart after the amazing run they've had with the greatest point guard to ever play the game. Let me know which players you were sad to see leave the team, and who did you hit or miss on when it came to these players that I listed. Post your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Till next time. Swish!
What I love about James is that he's got incredible character and work ethic and care for the team, an unbelievable teammate. You know, before the game, he knew he wasn't going to be part of the rotation. He was helping Looney prepare for the game with Looney's workouts, you know, defending him. And Wise is all in on the team. And because of his talent, because of all those characteristics I just talked about, I'm a huge believer that long term he's going to be a really good player.